Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Patrick Yopp. Patrick Yopp is the founder and CEO of InvicTech, a startup dedicated to developing and producing novel engineered tissue applications and bioprinting instruments. Patrick has successfully brokered partnerships with international companies such as Eurobionics BV, and as an avid interdisciplinarian, is constantly seeking collaborative opportunities where non-intuitive technologies can combine to solve complex problems. Well, good afternoon, Patrick. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. You know, an exciting thing about this particular episode today with you, Patrick, is, and I don't get these very often, but, and I really hope this is a unicorn story for you. And I truly mean that, continued success, but I feel like you're kind of almost back in grade school, right? But I know you're attending college right now, but you have a startup going, and I'm excited to jump into that. So let's start with the questions, and maybe you can share some of that stuff with our audience. So Patrick, your career started out in health tech, entrepreneur. I know you're going to college now, but now you're the CEO of InvicTech. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth thus far and what's really inspired you?
Sure. Well, my secret really is no secret. It's really as simple as just trying. I think that everybody should try, especially with tasks that seem almost impossible, because when you commit to something, when you commit to building something bigger than yourself, it'll change your whole world schema, right? It'll humble you, it'll challenge you, and it'll make you grow in the ways that are really significant, right? I think when people pursue entrepreneurship, they think that, they're going to own 20, 30% of some ginormous company, and they're going to be, living on yachts, but that's not really the growth that you want when you become an entrepreneur. You want to grow your inner strength. You want to learn how to trust yourself. And I think that is truly the hardest part of entrepreneurship, is learning how to trust yourself. And, that carries over into many areas of life. And, but as for inspiration, one of the things that really inspired me to pursue biotech specifically is the fact that life is just so short, right? It's so incredibly short. And so many of us either don't choose to live authentically, or we're quite literally incapable of living authentically. And I think that biotech gives people the opportunity who are less fortunate and afflicted by disease to have more of those opportunities to live authentically. And I think that is value at the most fundamental level. So that's why I wake up every morning.
That's amazing. And truly, that is, I would say, that the main thread or common denominator throughout all these podcasts I've done is people have found that living is giving. I'm sure you've heard that. I know Tony Robbins says that a lot, but really giving, if you're serving a higher purpose, that gives you all the fuel and energy you need to really engage and take this to the next level. So thank you for sharing, Patrick. I appreciate it. So Patrick,
no problem.
Jumping in here about the pandemic, hopefully they'll lift this soon. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But, what are you doing in this pandemic so far that you could share with us that you're helping your organization stay relevant in the economy? The economy has hit us hard. So maybe you could share something.
Right. Well, I think even in today's economy, with the pandemic, I know that there's a lot of economic volatility. I still believe that the economic landscape is absolutely littered with opportunity. It's an absolute land grab. And I think that stems mostly from the fact that, we're living in the internet age, and it couldn't be easier to access virtually unlimited, up-to-date information. We have access to these incredible platforms where you can develop relationships with influencers, very much like what's happening right now. And, with the flow of information, you never know. You might see a post that totally changes your trajectory as an organization as a whole. So I really believe that, the internet was kind of like a supplement to society up until the pandemic, but now it's really integrated itself into society, and we're leaning into it a lot more. And I think that's a good thing. I think we need to continue to lean into that. Especially with Web 3.0 right around the corner. I'm incredibly optimistic. I know that right now there's quite a bit of turbulence because of the pandemic, but I'm quite optimistic as long as we continue to lean into these platforms, lean into these, newer technologies. I think everything's going to work out just fine.
Great. I appreciate your share on that. I really do. And you're absolutely right. I think the pandemic, I know the pandemic has accelerated a lot of things and changed how we're doing business. And it's kind of forced us in that shift to be a few years ahead of where we would have been without a pandemic. So thank you. And Patrick, let's talk a little bit about tech, right? And biotech's just fine, but are you leveraging any new or emerging technologies within your tech stack? Anything you might be able to share with us today?
Sure. Well, we're mostly focused on developing our proprietary bioprinter, but outside of that, there's always side projects that we're interested in, and specifically with blockchain, we're trying to see what we can do on the back end of NFTs. I know right now, like art is, the reason. Yeah, it's huge, especially. I mean, it's the main reason why the Ethereum gas prices are so high, but I think it's underestimated and undervalued on what can be done on the back end. So we're kind of playing around with what we can do with that. We have a series of downloadable microfluidic chips that started off as just kind of a side project to experiment with. And now we're seeing if we can play around with NFTs with those. And, we're trying to see if maybe we can also add more of a financial incentive with those. So we're just really playing around with them. But what really strikes me is, I was an early adopter of Bitcoin. I bought Bitcoin, I think in 2014. So not incredibly early, but early enough. And even I'm just astonished by how much infrastructure has been developed, kind of under the radar, like with the DeFi space, smart contracts, polka dots, like parachains, all that. It's absolutely astonishing. And I can't help but think that this technology is dying to take root and sprout in enterprise. And, I'm definitely going to be on the lookout on ways that we could utilize that technology. And I hope everybody else in their space is also on the lookout, because it's just, it's one of those technologies that I think is going to change the way we operate with everything. So.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. In fact, a little insider information here. I'm actually exploring with our platform currently today some NFT work, and it's pretty exciting. If this truly works the way what I want to do, this is going to make this platform even bigger, which is great because my job is to serve, and I mean that. Tonight, I get to hear your story firsthand. And obviously, with your permission, I get to turn around and share it on a very large podcast, all the podcast platforms, to be honest, across a very large global readership. So thank you for sharing your story tonight. So I'm excited. So thanks again, Patrick. And so, Patrick, last question. We're going to jump into this. People want to know a little bit more about Patrick Yopp. Could you share something from your career experience thus far that would be helpful for those looking maybe to grow in their career in either health tech or entrepreneurship?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm a huge interdisciplinarian. I do not agree at all with the whole jack of all trades, master of none. I don't think that applies in today's world at all. I think it's a form of mastery in itself to have a myriad of experience or knowledge in a bunch of different disciplines. I think, especially when narrowly applied, right? Like in my situation with bioprinting, it doesn't help to just know mechanical engineering or to just know electrical engineering. You kind of have to have a cross section from each of those disciplines, especially once you get into the more, how is this going to be used medically, or, is there another interdisciplinary application? Like, one of the things that keeps being discussed is biobatteries, right? So now we're talking about a biological approach to energy storage. It's not intuitive right off the bat, but hypothetically, it could be a great avenue. I mean, fossil fuels, which kind of are, a biofuel in a sense, they're incredibly energy dense. But if you look at other biomaterials, they're far more efficient at being energy dense. So, I really just like non-intuitive approaches to complex problems. So if I could advise anything, if you're going to be an interdisciplinarian, there's two responsibilities that really come with that. And the primary one is that you have to be willing to continuously learn, right? You have to stay up to date on literature. You have to actively go out and find books, speak to people. Like that's a huge responsibility. I think that's part of the mastery. And then the second responsibility, if you're going to be, an entrepreneurial interdisciplinarian, you have to recognize that you cannot do everything. It's just not possible. So you have to learn how to attract and leverage ethos outside of your own. So for me, a good example of that would be, I know enough about finances to where if something's going wrong, I can kind of understand why. But I like to go to my financial advisor, Lewis Parks. He's a tremendous, very smart, been a great guy. He's guided me quite a bit on my entrepreneurial journey. I like to go to him for financial advice or for terms on like a royalty agreement or something, anything along those lines. So I think that's huge. It's just knowing when to leverage ethos outside of your own and how to attract that. So
that's awesome. No, I appreciate that. And you're right. We are one big community, this globe, and we've got to leverage, we've got to help each other out and do the right thing. So you're absolutely right. So Patrick, it was a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian.
Bye for now.